Yeah, no problem. I thank you all for being here this evening and giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I'm Ben Rivera, candidate for State Representative District 47. I see a lot of familiar faces, many who have followed our campaign from the beginning. You're going to hear repeated topics tonight because they're important. You are important. Our farmers, teachers, and neighbors are important to our district. I'm from Vermilion Parish, and my parents are Sammy and Charlie Picard from Maurice. I'm a graduate of North Vermilion High and ULL. My wife Hallie is from Delvin, and we've been married for 17 years. She's a third grade teacher at Moe Elementary, and I couldn't be more proud of her profession and accomplishments. We have two sons, Gavin and Riley. Both are students in North Vermilion schools. I've been an insurance agent in Abbeville for over a decade. The work we do proves that I can work with people from all walks of life. We insure families that need help with home insurance, as well as governmental entities. The best part about being an agent is helping the people in my community. I've been a volunteer at Vermilion Parish for the past 9 years. You'll likely see me in a local fundraiser, and I've served as president for both the Vermilion Chamber of Commerce and the Vermilion Economic Development Alliance. Through my work in volunteerism, I meet with many people who bring me their concerns. The biggest concerns of those people are jobs, agriculture, and the high cost of insurance. When it comes to jobs, overwhelmingly, people want oil and gas jobs to return to Vermilion Parish. A few years ago, our parish government and the Vermilion Chamber of Commerce voted not to sue the oil and gas industry because we knew the damage it would bring to our community, and it has. Last night in the State of the Union address, we heard President Trump state that the U.S. is the #1 producer of oil and natural gas in the world. We need those jobs here. The projected oil revenue for the Vermilion Parish School Board this year is just over $850,000. In 2008, it was close to $8.5 million of revenue. Just think about the strain that places on our education system and our children. It shouldn't be that way in Louisiana and Vermilion Parish, and we have plenty of oil to offer to the industry. Things that we can do at a state level to help oil and gas jobs return to Louisiana or stabilize our legal environment to be business friendly and lower our severance taxes to compete with the severance tax rates of our neighboring states. The loss of the oil and gas industry has also put pressure on Vermilion Parish's true passion, agriculture. The farming industry has long been the identity of Vermilion Parish. Every year, farmers have to fight to keep tax exemptions on large equipment purchases and state funding for research stations. Towards the end of this month, there will be a meeting of legislators and stakeholders to discuss the fate of the New Iberia Research Station. Without a voice for agriculture, our agricultural identity and what makes us unique as a parish is threatened. We need to protect research stations and look for things in crossover industries. A perfect example is a crawfish peeling plant where they take the shell of the crawfish, dry it, and crush it, and use that as a protein supplement. That process should be here. We have to start focusing on opportunities like that if we want to remain an agricultural community. Now let's talk about insurance. As an insurance agent, I constantly have complaints about the high auto rates, and it's with good reason. Louisiana has the second highest auto rates in the country. It's a financial burden to people, business, and government. The recently created Louisiana Auto High Task Force are looking for resolutions to our high auto rates. As an independent agent, the only help I can give for auto insurance is to shop with various companies. But as a state representative with insight to the problems that cause the high rates, we can help Louisiana work towards a solution. I thank you for sharing your time with me this evening and your consideration for state representative on February 23rd. Thank you.
Ryan Boryak, how you doing? Thanks to the Chamber for having us here tonight. I appreciate this opportunity wholeheartedly. Not a lot of fancy when you look at me. I can tell you that. My wife's sitting up here in the front row. We reside in Grand Chenier, Louisiana, between Moose Grocery and Price Lake Road. Our three daughters are the 6th generation of our family to live on the same piece of property in Grand Chenier. And to us, that's something that's very special. So when you ask about what are we here for, why are we fighting for this, it's to carry on a tradition, a way of life for generations. That's what I vow to you as constituents of District 47. I stand before you tonight as an individual who has experienced quite a bit in a short time on this earth. I've been very blessed, most certainly, with support and encouragement from loved ones and teachers and bosses along the way. I started off with the LSU Ag Center. I got to know a lot of people through the Ag Center by showing livestock. The first bit of leadership I learned was showing a pig in a show ring in Cameron. Through the Ag Center, met a lot of people. One of those individuals, Mr. Paul Carell. When I made it to LSU, Dr. Carell got me a job with LSU Sea Grant, handling some fisheries studies throughout all the coastal Louisiana, from Venice to Johnson Bayou. And I did a decent enough job that the Ag Center decided that they were going to put me on graduate assistantship. And that's when I finished my master's degree in Ag Econ at LSU. Had a few options, but the heartstrings tug at you sometimes. Sometimes you feel you belong somewhere. I moved back home to Cameron to do hurricane recovery work in June of 2008. That date matters because 3 months later I quit. So I have to tell you that my dad was not very excited that he had sent me to get a master's degree to move back home in the same house with him and take a job working for the police jury. He was not excited. However, it was through those days when our people were at their lowest that I gained a lot of experience that I hope to use as your state representative. When you look at how people were struggling across the board, across parish lines, as a region and as a state, we suffered together. The experience I gained in that short time, a 2-year window of doing nothing but hurricane recovery grants, dealing with road home, dealing with insurance, dealing with ICC, for all of our residents, even residents in Vermilion Parish, sent me on a track to meet a gentleman who helped my career immensely. Mr. Richard Menville, right here on South State Street. I spent 2.5 years of my career writing grants for every municipality and the police jury in Vermilion Parish and 4 other parishes. And in utilizing that experience that I learned from Richard, and he's in here, but it doesn't matter, he's the best. You can ask anybody that's ever dealt with him. He's the best. But what we did was take limited local dollars and stretch it. We leveraged limited local dollars and with no new tax revenue, identified infrastructure projects, housing elevation programs, flood reduction programs for the entire region. Water knows no boundary. We as a people know no boundary. I'm from the heart of the district. This district runs from Niblets, Bluff, and Starks all the way to Abbeville. I've worked in all 3 parishes already. And as president of the Chenier Plain Coastal Restoration and Protection Authority, I got to work even closer with people in Vermilion Parish. And we fought for critical coastal funding as a group, and we've been successful. In recent years, we are very fortunate that we stay on the same page. Hopefully some of these questions are going to come back. I appreciate the time. I appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy schedules to come and listen to us. I know some of y'all are probably tired of hearing the sound of my voice, but we got a little bit more to go. Thank you.
All right, the first question, we'll begin with you, sir. You get to speak again. What do you feel are the top 3 issues facing the district? Top 3 issues facing the district. 3 minutes.
Do we say sit for these?
Class.
First of all, we can address what has now become a very hot topic. For me, it is my passion When you live 3 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, if you ignore coastal restoration and protection in District 47, we're setting all of ourselves up for failure. When you look at land loss rates that exist across this district, 300 linear feet a year of Gulf shoreline erosion would have the Gulf of Mexico at Highway 82 in a short 10-year time frame. It's not a long time. Coastal restoration and protection is a major issue. Jobs, of course, is a major issue. You have to provide opportunity to the next generation. And we're fortunate enough to have been working with several of these billion-dollar investments in our corner of District 47. When you have $30 billion of private investment in oil and gas in a parish of only 6,800 people, and you have 2.8% unemployment, and the second highest median household income in the state of Louisiana, and when you have $1,796 per weekly wage per employee, which no state in the United States of America averages a higher weekly wage than $1,796. That's what our people are earning right now in Cameron Parish. So you have to provide opportunities via jobs to the next generation. And finally, I think that infrastructure is something we can't ignore. I think all you have to do is ride on the roads, ride on the bridges, look at the drainage, look at the amount of flooding that has occurred in recent times. If we do not improve our drainage capacity and the ability that we have to manage water from a local, regional, and state perspective, we are setting ourselves up for failure. You have the Sabine River, the Calcasieu River, the Mermentau River, and the Vermilion River. We're responsible for draining 14 parishes to the north of us. If we don't get organized and get our stuff together, everything else is for naught. Who wants to locate a business in a community that a home is going to flood once every 3 years? Who wants to build their home there? All of these things, to me, we have jobs that are an issue. You have infrastructure problems that are an issue. Coastal land loss, coastal protection, coastal restoration, to me, are the most important things for the district. Thank you.
All right, as I addressed in the opening statements, the 3 biggest issues or concerns brought to me by the people are jobs, agriculture, and the high cost of insurance. I went through those a little bit more, but I'll explain or touch on them again. So when it comes to jobs, people want oil and gas jobs back here in Vermilion Parish and Louisiana. If we don't become competitive as a state to compete with neighboring states and other oil-producing states, we will continue to have a stagnant economy, and we will not have jobs. Jobs are the true barometer of a sustainable economy and a growing economy. So the big focus is jobs, and that's the #1 issue for me, and that's brought to me by the people of Vermilion Parish. Agriculture. Like I said in the opening statements, agriculture is the identity of who we are. People are concerned about growth, shaping the growth of the parish, where people reside, where homes are being built, where things can come, changing the farming industry. We have to focus on research stations and doing things a different way, a smarter way, a more efficient way, and crossover industries for our farmers so they can continue to thrive and we can hold on to our identity. Auto insurance. I mean, the price of auto insurance, like I said, is second highest in the country. It's at a pricing bubble right now to where literally people can't afford it. Currently, 13% of drivers are uninsured, and then there's no end in sight. The #1 cause of the high auto rates are frivolous lawsuits, property damages, uninsured motorists, and other accidents. So we have to look for solutions to cause those, to change the problems that are causing the high rates.
Okay, nice job. Our second question, and you'll get to answer it first, Mr. Rivera. Many consider Louisiana to be an unfriendly business state. Many companies have left our state for other areas. What are your plans to make Louisiana a more business-friendly state, and what would you do to create a vibrant economy?
I will advocate for a political climate in Louisiana that is conducive to business. Having incentives that recruit business and industry, only to change when government changes, is not good for the industry environment in Louisiana. Like any other contract, we need to stand by the incentives agreed upon to recruit the business and industrial development. Our current legal environment compounds the risk of business as well. We need legal reform that limits frivolous lawsuits. And in regards to a stimulating economy, like I said, overwhelmingly people want oil and gas jobs to return. There are two things that we must address to have oil and gas jobs back in Louisiana: legacy lawsuits and severance taxes. Legacy lawsuits create an unstable legal environment for oil and gas companies. Our severance tax rate is currently at 12.5%. It's been the same since 1974. While Texas has a severance tax rate of 4.6%. We have to address these issues to compete with other oil-producing states.
First of all, I agree with a couple of the things that Mr. Rivera brought up. You know, I think it's clear to all of us in the room that frivolous lawsuits and activities that are not beholden of industry or development or from an individual's perspective is never ideal, ever. The industrial tax exemptions is a hot topic in this state right now. ExxonMobil recently pulled an application to develop some expansion projects in East Baton Rouge. I have to tell you, if you look at the map of the industrial tax exemptions that have been granted by Parrish, Cameron Parrish has given up, quote unquote, given up more money than anyone in the state of Louisiana. $30 billion of investment, but over $5.4 billion of local tax dollars that were given up. Okay? That's the argument that we're going to hear. The teachers need that money. The police officers need that money. So forth and so on. What have we seen? We've seen ancillary development that has spun off of those exemptions. So in a parish that had just been hit twice by 2 Category 3 named storm events and had no promise, in a 5-year time frame, had $20 billion being invested at Johnson Bayou, Louisiana for Cheniere, fueling LNG to the entire world. And in fact, last year in the State of the Union address, when the President referenced the United States becoming a net exporter of gas for the first time in over 60 years, he was able to make that claim because of gas that left from District 47's shoreline. So I believe in the industrial tax exemption program. And in fact, that investment started years ago. Those programs have been around for quite some time. We've seen the benefit. When you see a 7-to-1 multiplier from a manufacturing job to other investment, you're going to see the restaurants, the hotels, the truck stops, so forth and so on. And finally, taxes. How have we not talked about taxes already? A business wants certainty and uniformity. Tell me what I owe you. I understand I have a responsibility as a taxpayer. I think we have to begin to work with these companies where we have a significant return on investment for large-scale projects that we're going to have ancillary benefit from. We have to work with these companies and make sure they understand what their responsibilities are and not change it on them halfway through the game. Thank you.
Third question, gentlemen. And you get to go first with this. If you received a $5 million grant to use for your district in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Did Richard Minville write this question? First of all, working through the Vermilion Parish Resiliency Program back in 2012 showed me a lot about what constituents and residents of this area thought. Coastal protection and restoration was very important to them. However, I think there are funding sources out there to address coastal issues as we look at it today. I would take that $5 million, look at the bonding capacity of every municipality and the police jury in the parish, and identify infrastructure projects, namely road projects, state highways from 13 to 700, pick whichever one you want. You have evacuation routes, you have farming routes, oil and gas equipment routes, you have just normal routes for a kid to get to school from his house. You take that limited $5 million, and we're going to go sit down with Sean Wilson at DOTD in Baton Rouge. And we're going to tell Sean, we got $5 million cash right here. What can we leverage from DOTD? What can we go to capital outlay and identify immediately in this $300 million surplus that has already provided itself? What can we identify in any of those pockets of money to leverage that limited $5 million? You couple that with the bonding capacity of every municipality in this district who would like to participate, and the juries themselves. Then you go to the United States Department of Transportation, which we just submitted a build grant, which used to be Tiger grants. So you have a limited $5 million pot of money in local grant funds. You leverage state DOTD monies that are allocated annually. You leverage federal grant monies through the Federal Highway Administration or through evacuation routes or otherwise. And you couple all of that with bonding capacity of your locals. That results in no new taxes if you don't want to participate in a bond. You're utilizing programs that are annually allocated for those very purposes. I understand how those funding sources work. It has been my life's work to stretch limited local dollars. To answer the question, that $5 million is going to overlay some roads in District 47, and we're going to start with Main Parish. Thank you.
Ready?
My ideas are similar. I would look to match the money that was available with dollars and invest it in infrastructure to increase the business capacity of District 47. We've been talking about infrastructure for nearly a century. When the Louisiana business climate was strong, we did a poor job of allocating funds to infrastructure. We need to create a strong business climate that expands our tax base and not try to get there by increasing taxes. If you look at the local problems with infrastructure and poor conditions of our parish roads, it's obvious that the districts without business simply don't have the revenue to maintain and improve infrastructure. We have to become business friendly to have adequate funds for these projects. So without doubt, I would allocate it to infrastructure and moving the district forward.
Good job. And start with Highway 14 from Kaplan to Wright, if you don't mind. I appreciate that. Have you guys been there lately? Yeah. All right. The fourth question will begin with you, Mr. Rivera. What are your plans for addressing coastal land loss in our district? Coastal land loss.
I think I'm going to borrow something from Ryan the other day, and I'm just going to talk for a little bit and kind of distract you from everything he's about to say, because he has the vast knowledge in this area. But in sincerity, in addressing coastal erosion, I would look to the Louisiana Master Plan for Sustainable Coast and the Chenier Plain Coastal Restoration and Protection Authority and coastal residents to advocate for these projects. It is a concern to our parish, and it should be wider than it is, and I hope to work for and allocate with different organizations to make sure we can help protect our coast and flood protection.
Well, the good news is, being referenced the state master plan, that's been in existence since 2007, so we've had 3 iterations of that state master plan. One key feature of that plan is if your projects aren't in that plan, you don't qualify for state and federal money. You start with the locals. You start with the boots on the ground. What we have done in this district already is build up a program from scratch. The Southeast whipped our tail for decades in allocating coastal dollars to their own projects. We started identifying our projects. What are the priorities? We have Gulf shoreline protection. We have channelization of the navigable waterways. We have dredging projects. You have marsh creation projects. And in our end of the state, water control structures work. Southeast, they don't. We've had to change the way Baton Rouge thinks. People that tell you it can't happen, we've already pulled it off in the Chenier Plain. We've done it. But it started with individuals like Mr. Cheryl Segrera who have been entrenched in this arena for decades. You don't need a PhD hydrologist from the Netherlands to come down and tell us what we need to do in District 47. We have an understanding. Where we have to connect the dots, that's when it gets difficult. And that's when you have people like Ralph Liverstadt and the Coastal Committee that's working here in Vermilion, Ms. Laurie Cormier in Calcasieu Parish. I am a representative on the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority. And I'll tell you, starting our plans with ideas, with trying to address the issue first, and at the same time finding synergy for economic development projects at the same time. It's pretty neat. When you look at the fiscal year 2020 plan for the CPRA, federal projects alone, there are $180 million in projects. Scheduled to be under construction this year. 6 projects, $180 million. 4 of those projects are in the Chenier Plain, $121 million. More than 66% of the total federal allocation for this fiscal year, not in planning, in construction, are coming to our 2 parishes. That's a fact. You want to know why? It's not a coincidence. It's because we work together. We've been concise, we've been on point with our messaging, and we've been unrelenting when it comes to fighting in Baton Rouge for those dollars. We're going to keep that going.
So back to you, sir. What is your position on the TOPS program regarding its overall cost? Do you think changes should be made in addition to what was proposed last year? And if so, what changes should be made?
Here's where I start to get in trouble. My genetics leave me with a bunch of opinions, and a lot of times they're not worth a whole lot, so I may make some people mad. I think one of our issues that I've experienced in recent times with the expansions going on in Southwest, there's this mindset that if a kid does not attain a 4-year university diploma, there is this dogma that that kid is not successful or will not be successful in life. That is wrong. I'm fortunate enough that my wife's here tonight. She's a guidance counselor at South Cameron High School. One of the first things we did when she became guidance counselor, I was on the Soella Foundation board. To see what that technical college provided to our kids was amazing. TOPS is a good program. And those students who need access to TOPS, maybe need to fill that gap, absolutely. We need to help some of those kids. However, it's not a free ride. It wasn't a free ride for me. It's not a free ride for a lot of your kids, grandkids, or yourselves. We have to hold the student accountable. It's not a 3-year party on state taxpayers' backs. I think it should be a loan program, a loan forgiveness program. If you don't graduate in a certain amount of time, you start paying that back. I know we had to pay back Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and whoever else was at the party that day for student loans. Why should this be any different? And I think you can accomplish that 2 ways. You bring about awareness of the Jump Start program that's available to every kid in high school in Louisiana now. You have to make them aware that welders and pipe fitters and electricians and plumbers and chefs and car dealers at the Golden Nugget are all in need. All of them. These kids are raised in communities that put value in them. We need to get away from the mindset that they're nothing if they don't get that 4-year degree. They are raised right. They're going to be a good father and mother. They're going to contribute to their community. Put them on a track that they will succeed for their entire community and graduate with an associate's degree as a 12th grader in business. They could come back and work for a farmer here in Pavilion Parish. Manage all his computer data. Do all the data entry. Manage the whole business if he wants to. With an associate's degree as a senior in high school, accumulating no student debt, starting a family if they choose to do so, and making some money and contributing back to the economy.
I agree with a lot of what was just said. We should open up the program, the skilled labor programs and technical programs or 2-year colleges or in universities, not offering educational and skills for weaken our labor force, and we need to increase our workforce in technical jobs and trades like was previously mentioned. I would also look to collaborate with local technical colleges for ideas and insight and to get further insight in the educational process and what other opportunities may be available for our students.
And back to you, sir. Now for this question, we would like a simple yes or no. Okay, that doesn't take 3 minutes, so. Okay. Would you support a constitutional convention? Yes or no? Just yes or no?
No.
Yes.
Continue. One more question. So we're back to you, sir. What steps, if any, should be taken to curb violence in our communities?
You know, I think that question would probably be suitable for a lot of places in Louisiana. I'm not sure District 47 is a representation of this question. However, for me, I know in the 4-H and FFA program, we had this thing called character counts. And we had leadership programs that were brought into every elementary and middle school in our parishes through the Ag Center way back when. And it brought about awareness of respecting one another. There's pillars of the community: respect, honesty, integrity, honor your friends, on and on and on and on. To curb violence, there's this culture of hate, it seems at times, that it's really difficult to get past. You know, we have 3 young daughters, and I know we're trying very hard to prepare them for the real world. But I think that we're blessed in District 47 to have communities that stick up for one another, look out for each other. You keep a kid busy, both their mind and their hands, and chances are they're going to be okay. I know my hands stay busy a lot of times dealing bourrée cards or fixing drinks, but the fact of the matter is I was around the older generations. I was learning the tricks of the trade. I was learning how to cook. Maybe not the best white beans in the world, but they're pretty good. The fact of the matter is, you keep a kid occupied, you keep a kid involved, and tell him, let that young man or woman know that you value them. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a community that I think is not much different from this. The older generation has a vested interest in the younger generation. So collectively, when we work together and realize that I'm held accountable to the previous generation, all my actions are judged by the previous generation, and believe me, they are. Some of them are in the room. That is, you need to laugh. I think that we are fortunate However, engage the kids early on through character and leadership programs, and have a good camaraderie amongst the communities with public safety in mind, the sheriff's deputies, municipal officers, police officers. When you look at it collectively, they all play an individual role. I think we need to engage the kids early on.
I also agree that it needs to start at home and with the children and doing the best we can to foster the future generations of our community. I'm fortunate to have a two-parent household, so setting children up for success and creating an environment where families can thrive is definitely one of those precursors. When you look at it from a sociological standpoint, not having jobs and putting stress on families is a precursor to the deviations of the behaviors. So in order to help reduce violence, that was the original question, we have to look at those things. From an economy standpoint, when the economy thrives and people are wage earning, those pressures are released at home and gives more time and more value in the home with the child. That's what I would look for to help curb violence, as long as, as well as regulation and law enforcement.
Excellent job, gentlemen. We really appreciate you coming out this evening and giving us some insight into what you are about. And now we're going to ask everyone to go through either of the double doors and into the foyer, and we're going to have a meet and greet for these attendees. You can ask them whatever questions you want to ask them that maybe weren't on my list. Thank you.